Hi, Anna.
Hey, how's it going, Elizabeth?
Good. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mom Project's masterclass, Returning to Work After 40, Overcoming Ageism in Your Return to Work. My name is Elizabeth Shackelford, and I'm so excited to moderate today's discussion with Anna McKay of Parents Pivot, a leadership and development coach. Anna has been a career and transition and leadership development coach since 2008. She started Parents Pivot because after two expat assignments and moving to Houston, she noticed that many people, mostly women, who took a career pause for care giving or for job relocation, faced a multitude of challenges when they wanted to return to paid work. She founded Parents Pivot to be that bridge to help parents and other career pausers transition back to paid work. Parents Pivot coaches through the job search and onboarding process to help clients find careers they love and re-enter paid work with strength and clarity. In today's session, Anna will talk about return to work after the career pause and the numbers of hurdles that you're likely to face getting back to paid work, including ageism. A few housekeeping notes before we begin. We will have time for a Q&A at the end of the session, so please feel free to type in any questions for Anna in the chat box. You'll notice that there's a comment box. Please put your questions in there, and we will try to get to them all. And this session will be recorded and emailed to everyone who is registered, along with some helpful resources from Anna. So be on that lookout for that email today. All right, Anna, I'll let you take it away.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be back with you all. I always loved speaking to this community. It's a community that's very close to my heart. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk to returners. I'm excited to share some tips today. So let's see there we go. So today we're going to be talking about returning to work after 40 and overcoming ageism in that process. Ageism is something that is common and is something that spans across races, ethnicities, gender, sexual orientation. It's something that hopefully we're lucky enough to reach the age of 40, and everybody here is likely at that point, including me, past it. And it's something that we might experience. And so today we're going to be talking about what to do if that happens for you and some ways to get your strength back and to go through the job search process. So my name is Anna McKay, founder of Parents Pivot, and thank you so much for the introduction, Elizabeth. I was in Big Five accounting. It was Big Five at the time for almost 10 years before I became a coach in 2008. And so I've spent the last 14 plus years coaching people through career transitions and did set up Parents Pivot to be that resource for parents in pivotal points of their career. So returning to paid work, transitioning through parental leave, and managing life as a working parent. When I started my coaching career, I have my own story of experiencing some ageism. I was in my early 30s when I started coaching, and I'd already had a successful career for the Big Four accounting firm. But I experienced some ageism when I became a coach because somebody said to me, "Oh, nobody's going to hire you. People want somebody much older than you. You don't know what you're talking about." It had nothing to do with my experience or my abilities. It had everything to do with this person's perception of me. And so while there are things that I could manage and things that I could address, there are also things that were out of my control. And so today we're going to talk through some of the things that are within our control that we can address and we can change. And then we're going to let those things that we can't control out of our sight. So let's get started. Today, the agenda is we're going to be talking about ageism in the workplace, share a little bit of, share some data and some statistics about what people are experiencing today. We'll share some tips about companies, so what companies can do about it. I realize most of you on this call today are job seekers, but there are things that companies can do, and I want to acknowledge that. Then we're going to be talking about what we can do about it as job seekers. Finally, there will be time for Q&A. So ageism today in the workplace exists. So 36% of job seekers are long-term unemployed people over the age of 55, whereas there's only 23% are long-term unemployed under the age of 55. Ageism does play a factor in that and how long people are unemployed. The long-term unemployment rate, according to this February 2022 article, was considering people who had been out of work for 27 weeks. The Mom Project and Work Labs did a study, and I'm sure you can find it on their website, Experience Matters, Ageism in the Workplace. And they found that 60% of survey respondents, they surveyed about 700 people, encountered ageism at some point in their professional lives. AARP did a study and found around 80% of people who responded to their survey experienced ageism. So if you feel like you have, you're not alone. It's probably something that has happened. And we're going to talk about how to deal with that. So some people, 75% of the people in the Work Labs and Mom Project study experienced this ageism in the job search, and about 53% experienced it in the workplace. Some of the industries that the Work Labs and the Mom Project found to have higher rates of employees who noted experience ageism included these three here: financial services, advertising and marketing, and tech. All had respondents say, more than 80% of them say that they had experienced ageism. Some of the lowest occurrences of this ageism were in healthcare and pharmaceuticals and education. It is illegal to discriminate against workers over the age of 40 during the hiring process and in the workplace because of this Age Discrimination Employment Act from 1967. So what can companies do about it? Well, recently, many companies have taken a look at their DEI strategy. Unfortunately, only 8% of organizations, according to this Harvard Business Review study, had addressed age as part of their DEI strategy. So what can they do about it? Most companies can recognize this bias, recognize that the bias is out there and acknowledge it. Review their hiring practices, making sure that job descriptions don't have language that could be biased, making sure they include people from all generations in the hiring process, and getting specific about qualities that they're looking for when it comes to things that they might be biased about. They can also evaluate employment practices. So what can we do about it? I've categorized these into three different groups. First, we'll understand the bias and understand some of those thoughts driving the bias. And then we'll talk about how to address this on your resume and in the hiring process. And finally, we'll talk about how you can prepare and shift your mindset. And then it'll be time for Q&A. So what can we do about it? We can understand the bias. There's several thoughts that are often driving this bias. We'll understand what those are, and we can propose contrary evidence that when it's applicable to you. So this is one of the statements that could be driving the bias, this age against ageism. So her technology is outdated. Sometimes people have an idea that older workers are not up to date on technology. And I know that that is not correct. In fact, one of our Thrive group coaching program participants from Parents Pivot was, she had an 18-year career pause. She left consulting 18 years ago. And when she was returning to paid work, she talked about how she had researched technology to use, and then she led a payment processing implementation project in her unpaid work. And she talked about that in her interview. And she was able to land a job picking up right where she had left off 18 years earlier in consulting. So I know that when we can talk about the use of technology that's applicable to where we are, what job we're looking to go back to, that employers can see that, okay, you know, she can pick this up. Next, another thought behind the bias is, she won't stick around a long time because this is just a stepping stone job, or he must be planning to retire soon. And so, these thoughts might not be true for you. And so, if it's not, I think addressing it in the job search process is helpful. We had a Parents Pivot returner candidate talk about how they were had a director level position in accounting before, and they were looking to go back to a lower level position. And so, when they met with the recruiter, they mentioned that, this is the role and level that I'm looking for right now. This is what aligns with, my strengths. I know I can do this job, and I'm looking to stay with the right company for a long time. So addressing those two pieces of, this is right for me. I'm committed to doing this, and I want to be here, and I want to do a good job for you all. I will bring my strengths. Another thought behind the bias is he won't have the energy to keep up and be engaged in the work. So, some contrary evidence based on this AARP study showed that, when they polled employees, actually 65% of employees over the age of 55 were considered engaged employees, whereas that percentage was much less for those under the age of 55. It was 58 to 60%. This same study also noted that employees who were over 55 had less turnover and greater levels of experience. Another thought that could be underlying the bias is she won't be able to work with younger people or have younger people as her boss. So I want to share a story about Dahlia, who was all of these names have been changed, by the way, and images. She was a Parents Pivot Thrive participant with a 16-year career pause. And when she was looking to go back to work, she was looking to work for a company who was working with a younger demographic. And so she talked about times when she worked with multi-generational teams, and she was able to connect with a variety of generations and get work done. And she landed the job. So another thought underlying the bias is he won't be able to pick up new things quickly or be adaptable. A story about Carla, also a Parents Pivot Thrive group coaching program participant with a 13-year career pause, talked about how she took ownership and streamlined processes in a role that she had. She really showcased how she took initiative, and she took on additional courses to help her in her job, and she was able to return to a marketing role. Next, another thought is that she doesn't want to have challenging work or be part of innovative projects. And LinkedIn actually did a study and showed that there's a larger proportion of older people who said that they like working with challenging and impactful work. More than younger generations, and that people who wanted innovative projects it was pretty even across those generations. So that bias is unfounded. Another thought underlying bias could be older workers don't have the relevant experience and won't fit in with our culture. And so, if we can talk about our diversity of thought and experiences, I know one of our clients talked about her employer. She was able to return to paid work, and her employer really valued her life experience and her empathy. And so, finding employers like that is critical. So, talk about how you can add to a team and solve a problem, and talk about that diversity of thought and how you've kept your knowledge up to date. In the Work Labs and Mom Project study, they looked at 4 different things that could potentially reduce ageism in the hiring process. And they found that for certifications, 60% of the people who used that felt like that helped them reduce ageism in the hiring process if they went back and they got an additional certification or did some additional training. And then the next thing was removing graduation dates from your resume and LinkedIn. So 61% of the people who they surveyed felt like that was beneficial in reducing ageism in the hiring process. Next, reducing older experience. So 64% felt that was beneficial, and 69% felt that having a skill set resume versus a chronological resume was beneficial in reducing ageism in the hiring process. I want to share with you all, if you hold your camera up to your phone and click on your camera, you can scan this QR code. I have put together a list of 30 ways that you can overcome ageism in the hiring process. It includes all of this, and it includes a few more. Another one is using LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a powerful tool, and if you can use that in the job search process, it can help you tremendously. Another tip that's included in that checklist is updating your email. So if you have an older version of an email system, then updating it to something more current like Gmail. And then I guess updated resume. It looks like, am I having a challenge? Is somebody, is it paused or are we good? I'm just going to keep going. I see in the comments it's paused, but hopefully it's okay and we're going to keep going. So the updated resume is, using color and using updated fonts in your resume. We've got some templates that we use in the Thrive program. So click that link and get your free copy of the 30 ways to overcome ageism in the hiring process. And then the next example is of Regina, who had a 21-year career pause. She was in tech prior to her pause and was looking to return and returned in marketing. She used the updated format and talked about her experience in her unpaid work, and that was helpful for the employer to see what she could do. And so she switched, and her employer loves that she is her empathy and her life experience. They feel like that really helps her be a better employee for them. All right. So, thoughts are powerful. This is another way that we can address ageism in the hiring process. There was a study done by the World Health Organization that talked about how when older people exposed to subliminal negative messages performed poorly on cognitive and physical tasks, whereas those that were exposed to positive self-perceptions had better functional health and greater longevity. So if we can understand what our thoughts are and check those and shift our mindset, that can go a long way as well. So consider, how do you view aging? Can you shift your mindset from I don't have to I do have by really securing yourself in your knowledge of your value? And that's something I had to do when I experienced that ageism earlier on. So knowing your value, there have been many studies about diverse teams, and this one referenced in the Harvard Business Review talks about how age diverse teams can bring people from all different generations, all different skill sets, all different complementary abilities to get a more holistic and better outcome. So if people are open and willing to share and open to ideas, and that might be something for you to look for when you're in the job search processes, asking questions during the interview process around openness to new ideas, and how does a team kind of bring in new ideas? How does a team foster that openness? So if you've heard me speak before, you've probably heard me talk about the fact that returners have depth. And depth is an acronym that I created to kind of hit on some of the key points that returners bring to an employer. So D stands for drive and determination. So people, when they are returning to paid work, have likely been shown that drive and determination in their unpaid work experience. So if we can show that to an employer, that's a benefit and a value add to them. Next is energy. So energy stands for when we are joining a team, when we are coming in new and we haven't been working, we bring a fresh energy to the workplace that people who've been continuously working don't have. The next is P, prior professional and life experience. So throughout our lives, we've had the opportunity to develop some professional experience and life experience, and all of this contributes to us as an employee. And because of that experience and background, we often are able to ask those thought-provoking questions and insights. If we have different experiences as a returner coming into a team, we can look at things a little bit differently and see things that people who've been continuously working or continuously in the industry might not be able to see. And finally, H stands for heart. And so, as parents and caregivers, we've likely had the opportunity to practice our empathy skills and develop that heart. So, I would love to hear from you all, if this is resonating with you. Who in the chat, if you want to go ahead and just put D, E, P, T, or H, if any of that resonates with you, and what you feel like is applicable. So I'll move on if y'all want to go ahead and do that. I named my company Parents Pivot because I believe it speaks to the ability that we have and the flexibility that we develop as parents and caregivers to kind of adapt and be agile. We're often talked about, we're often, called upon to do different things, to change in the moment, to kind of like change our plans at the last minute. And so if we can if we can showcase that agility and that adaptability in the workplace, that will make us a valuable employee. Yay, look, I see the D's coming in, the E's, that drive and determination. We got a lot of driven people. I love it. And H's, some heart. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Good. Some energy. The whole thing. Some people have the whole thing. I love it. Well, good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad to see that. Some other other ways that you might add value to a team would be, as we mature, we often get more comfortable with direct communication. And in that way, we're able to be more productive and get things done. So that's a strength of a returner. In addition, we likely have lots of experience making and saving money for employers and ourselves. So we can showcase and talk about that. We need to utilize our network. And so if as a returner, as an older returner, we're likely have a lot more connections we've developed over our lifetime. And so utilizing that network and reaching out to people of all ages can be really helpful. And then finally, we have likely had lots of experience kind of solving problems. So these are all things that I came up with. I'm curious if you want to think about for yourself, what else would you add here? So think about that. Think about the depth, the diversity of teams, and that direct communication and that experience. So think about what you might want to add and showcase in your resume and interviews. I'm going to share another example of Mindy, who was a Parents Pivot coaching client. She returned to marketing after a 16-year career pause, and she was able to, after some time, really connect to her value, connect to what she did and what she knew and her strengths. And she did some projects, and she showcased that in her work and in her application, and she was able to return at a director level. So what else can we do about it? We can recognize sometimes it's not me, it's you. So some people will never understand what I bring to the table until they see me in action at another table. I love this quote because it just reminds us that, sometimes it's out of our control, but what can we do if we feel like we encounter that? So we can remove those bad apples from our job search. We can remove those companies that use biased language like digital native or high energy in the job description. We can look for companies that feature age diversity in their marketing materials and in their hiring practices and in their interviews. And there were several companies that kind of reacted to the Lisa LaFlame case and showed their support for her after she was removed from the Canadian network TV. And so, reach out to some of those companies. Look for the companies that take a stand and that are doing something about this bias. You can set up informational interviews with people from a variety of ages within your industry and see what they have to say. It also builds your network. And if you get an ageist remark during the process, using curiosity. So, what's behind that comment for you? Or when you say that you're looking for somebody who's up to date on technology, what specific technology are you referring to? And what systems do you use? And then showcasing how you can do that too, or you've learned to use new systems recently, and you can do this for their system as well. So we can't magically make this go away. It is a real thing, but raising awareness is important, and we can continue to do that, and we can recognize those companies that we just need to remove from our search. So I wanted to share this slide. I saw this article from Inc. that shared 19 people who had returned to work or who had switched careers later in life. My favorite one is probably Julia Child, because I know she didn't even go back to school for culinary school until she was in her 40s. And then she wrote her first cookbook at the age of 50. And she was on TV after that. So she had an extensive career starting in her 50s. I didn't realize this, but Vera Wang entered the fashion industry at the age of 40. Colonel Sanders franchised KFC at 62. Terry Crews became an actor in his late 30s after being a football player. John Glenn was 53 when he became a senator after being an astronaut for several years. And Joy Behar switched from teaching to comedy in her late 30s. And then Ray Kroc bought McDonald's at 52. So I thought all of these were very inspirational, and to know that you all, there's other people like you who are looking to return to work and who can do it and who have done it. And we work with people just like you all through the Thrive Like a Mother group coaching program. So if you hold your phone up to the screen and scan that QR code again, it'll take you to the Thrive page on the Parents Pivot page and on the Parents Pivot website, and it'll share about the program. So you've heard about several of the success stories from the program throughout this, people who came to the program and felt like they were facing so many hurdles. One of those was ageism, and they were able to overcome it. So the Thrive program has 1 one-on-one and 9 group coaching sessions, and will help you find clarity, confidence, and community, all while honing your job search tools like resumes, LinkedIn, interview prep, and salary negotiation. So we have a team of coaches that are leading those. Holly will be leading the October 4th group, and Jen will be leading the October 5th group that starts. And for a bonus for anybody who signs up today for a phone call with me or for the Thrive program, we'll get an additional one-on-one. So you get 2 one-on-ones and 9 group coaching sessions to help you through your job search. And then so if you want to set up a phone call with me, you can either email me, there's my email address, or click on this QR code and it'll take you to my schedule, and you'll be able to set up some time with me. I've have a little bit of time tomorrow afternoon, and I have reserved Monday and Tuesday for calls with people. So I am excited to hear from you all and move to the Q&A section of this program. So
Thank you so much, Anna. I also loved the chat comments. Everyone was throwing in those letters. I was like watching it intensely.
Oh, good. I know. It's so good to see. I love seeing it when things resonate with people. So yes.
It absolutely did. And it also looks like we have a ton of people from Texas in this chat. I was like, wow. I'm in Houston too. So Anna and I are both repping Texas.
I know. I love it. Well, and I wasn't able to see all the questions that came through. So if you have some flagged, I would love to answer anything.
Okay. Having a skill-based resume versus a chronological resume, how do you avoid putting dates of employment on LinkedIn?
So dates of employment, I'm not sure that you can avoid. You can't avoid putting graduation dates on your LinkedIn. So when you go in to your LinkedIn and you have, well, I originally put it in and I had to put in my year of graduation, but now you don't have to. You can just click
Hmm.
year and it doesn't show anything. So you don't have to. And then, so yeah, that looks like that was the question.
Okay, Nicole asks, what about looking for part-time work to get back into the workforce? Is that easier or harder as an older person?
Yeah. So I think it depends on what you're looking to do. I think that oftentimes getting back to part-time work can be a great stepping stone and get showcase your skills that I know you have. And it depends on, I've had other returners do that. They went back and they got some experience in a part-time role and then were able to return more full-time when it was right for them. In some cases, part-time work is the thing that people are looking for. And so, I've had several different people go back and return part-time, and that's what they were ready for at the time. So going back, I don't think it's necessarily easier or harder for an older person or a younger person. I think going back to what fits for you and your life and your schedule and what you're looking for, your needs, that's the best way to make the decision about part-time or full-time.
All right. Lindsay asks, any suggestions for someone looking to return, but also looking to career pivot? This is I like this question.
Yes, yes, yes. This is so, so, so common. And it's something that we talk about in Thrive. Lots of people come to the program and they are not sure what they want to do. They know they don't want to do what they did before, but they don't know what that is. So that's really what the program is geared to help you figure out. And some of the steps that we take to help you figure that out include kind of reflecting on some of the choices that you've made in your career pause and what's excited you about that. What's excited you about those choices that you've made. And so really connecting in with that in combination with a need of an employer or the world in your community. So yeah. Thanks, Lindsay.
All right. Pauline, what is a younger version of an email?
Okay, so I love this question. Thank you, Pauline. So, well, an older version of an email is like AOL. A younger version of an email system is like Gmail, or something like that. Or there are different ways that you can use your name as the so I have Anna@parentspivot.com, so you can set up your own kind of domain name and do that as well. But Gmail works out great, but just not AOL.
All right. Not sure if there are others here in the same boat, but is there such thing as reverse ageism? I'm 5 feet and I'm often mistaken for someone much younger, but I'm in a field where experience matters and have been referred to as honey or sweetie by those senior to me. And it is infantilizing and inappropriate.
Yes, Michelle, yes. And so I know that that happens, and I felt like that was something that I kind of was experiencing maybe to a lesser degree than what you're talking about here, and it's not appropriate. The ADA does talk about people 40 and over, but reverse ageism is a thing as well, and it's not appropriate. And I think, responding to that with a curious way and with a way that says, I'm not listen, this is not appropriate. Please don't call me honey or sweetie. Yeah, I think that this is something that's tough, and I'm sorry that you've experienced that, and hopefully, looking for companies where that doesn't happen is probably your best bet.
How do you address a career break in a resume and cover letter?
Great question. This is also something we address in the Thrive program. And so I always suggest that people talk about it in a forthright way. So there was a study done that showed that if people addressed their career pause and talked about it on their resume and in their cover letter, they were 60% more likely to get called back for an interview. I know.
Wow.
So yes, so you've got to talk about it and talk about it in a way that you own the story. You can communicate your strength, your value, and how you're ready to go back to paid work. So we often refer to kind of the 3 C's: the commitment piece, the cultural add piece, and the competency piece. So if you can address your commitment to going back to paid work, especially as a returner, because that is something that's a bias that people have against returners is, oh, will she be committed to this job for me? And yes, you will.
Yeah.
And so if you can address that, I'm looking to return to paid work, I've taken a career pause, but I'm ready to go back right now, and I've got all of these skills that I can use and serve and add value in your company, then you can definitely, then that's great to hear, and you'll have a higher likelihood of getting that interview.
Yeah, show off that depth.
Exactly. Show off the depth.
Karen asks, I'm pivoting. When the job description states 1 to 3 years professional experience, does that mean direct experience for the type of job I want or overall previous professional experience?
So I would say overall previous professional experience. If you have professional experience that's related to the job, then yes, go for
Mhm.
it. Go for it, apply. And but you really need to be able to showcase that experience in your resume and on your in your interviews too. So yes.
Megan asks, question on formatting. Do you need a professional summary up at the top?
I like professional summary at the top. I actually wouldn't call it a professional summary. I would call it more of a value statement,
Mm.
because as a returner specifically, like we talked about a little bit earlier, when you can own the narrative and when you can showcase your strengths and skills and have that value statement at the top, showcasing why you're the best person for the job and talking about like that you're ready and committed to go back to paid work, that can be done on the resume. Whereas sometimes there's not always an opportunity to send a cover letter. A cover letter is a great place to expand on that value that you bring. But really, in that resume, that value statement gives you that opportunity there. So I definitely would encourage returners to have a value statement on their resume.
I love that value statement. Owning your narrative. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Own it.
How did your client demonstrate projects that they did when unemployed? Were they paid work experiences? And if so, how did they get those?
Yes. So, a couple of the experience that I referenced were unpaid. They volunteered. So one client volunteered for her school, and that's when they were going through and implementing payment processing systems for a fundraising event that they were doing. They were moving that all online, and so she had the opportunity to research all of those payment processing systems, pick which one worked best for what they needed, and work with the team to kind of get that implemented, and was the bridge between the school community and that payment processing system. And so she was able to do that, and is unpaid work. I've had other clients who have done it in paid work, and like somebody asked earlier, could they do like a part-time job? I have had other clients who take kind of a stepping stone job, and one who really stepped in and took ownership, and it really allowed her to, while making some money, not the money that she wanted to make, but making some money, she was also able to showcase those skills and really take ownership, take initiative, and showcase that. So definitely, any opportunity that you can get, and sometimes it's unpaid, sometimes it's paid, whatever works for you and what your opportunities are. So yes.
How far back should your resume go, especially if your last paid job was 18 years ago? Should you list planned career break or stay at home parent on the resume as your job?
So I think that typically people say, I'd say if you're not a returner, a lot of people say don't put any experience past 10 years on your resume. For returners, I like to suggest that you do put your last paid work experience on your resume. But before that, put all of your unpaid work experience. So yes, putting that experience that you've gained and showcase that drive and determination, showcase that those thought-provoking skills, that professionalism that you have acquired during your unpaid work and your volunteer roles. So I do recommend that you like, as far as the year goes, like how many years of experience you should go back to, typically your last paid work experience. And then if you have older experience, if you have like something that's 20 years, but it's a brand name company, you can add that into a prior work experience and not put the year.
Mm.
And so that you get credit for working for that brand name company, but you don't disclose what year that was. And so those are some recommendations for that experience that's a little bit further back.
No, those are great recommendations.
Yeah, thanks.
What are the red flag interview questions that can indicate concerns with ageism or other biases? In my chosen prior field, ageism is, I always mispronounce this. I'm going to butcher. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Julia. Dave, I'm not, ageism is de rigueur.
Yes.
And I'm used to it. I'll let you answer that question.
Yes, Julia. I understand. And so some of the red flag interview questions that can indicate concern is, when people talk about like, oh, this job requires a lot of energy, it requires lots of lots of time, and you got to be up to it's fast paced, you got to keep moving. So do you think you can handle that? Like, that would be a red flag question. Or questions like, you've got a lot of work experience. You look kind of overqualified for this job. So that would be another red flag. I think that you can turn around your answer to that question and showcase why you are the right person. So for example, that question about, oh, you look to be overqualified for this. That was one of the kind of bias statements that we talked about a little bit earlier. And so if you can address that, and, I have had people do this, they say that, this is the job that I'm looking for right now. I have a lot of strengths and skills that I can add and be an excellent employee in this role. And this is what works for me right now. So this is and I'm willing to stay. I want to stay for the right company. I want to work for a company. I mean, there was some of the research that I shared was that older employees are more likely to be loyal employees. And that is a huge value add for employers too. So just showcasing that and making sure that that's clear to the person who's hiring you, if that's applicable to you. So of course, all these things need to be applicable for you.
I went back to work after a 14-year career pause, but I don't think I am being compensated appropriately because of my career pause. Any advice on getting compensated appropriately?
Yes. Unfortunately, this happens. And, it's great when we can have people on the inside who see this and see that this is not right and this is not fair. And I've actually had some clients that I'm working with that are currently in positions in paid work positions and they don't have a career pause. These are just career transition clients, and they've advocated for people like you. So they've advocated for looking at the value that somebody brings. And if we think somebody is going to be more valuable, if we think somebody is going to bring a lot of value to this role, we should compensate them based on the value that they're bringing. And there's research that you can do on various different pay rates and salaries for somebody with your level of experience in the role that you have, and in the job in the industry. And so I would definitely do some of that research. We talk a lot about salary negotiation in Thrive, and actually somebody was telling me that after they completed the program, they used all the tactics that we talked about, and they got 10% of more than what they were offered. So yes. So negotiate at the front. It sounds like you've returned already, and so negotiating at the next opportunity would be great. Thanks, Angela.
How does one use volunteer work to their advantage? Do you put it under volunteer or community engagement, or can you put it under professional experience? They don't need to know it's unpaid work, right?
I like it, Megan. I like it. Yes, I would put it under experience. It can just be a general experience section. It doesn't have to say professional or not or volunteer or anything. Just this is my experience. And yes, and so I've had people when they have had unpaid work, if they've had a role, like I had one client who was consistently the marketing person for any volunteer role that she would take on. And so I had her go through and evaluate, all the wins that she had in each of these unpaid work roles and see what she had done, and put that under her experience as a marketing consultant. And so she had done that for several different unpaid, several different volunteer experiences. And so that work cumulatively, when you look at it on her resume, is substantial. And so that really made an impact for her on her resume for sure. So definitely talk about that experience. And if you can group it into similar kind of skill set categories, that's excellent. Thanks, Megan.
All right. And this is going to be the last question. During my career pause, I attempted to return to work, but the positions weren't a good fit. Do we have to list all jobs?
So during your career pause, you wanted to return, but so listing all jobs, does that mean like list? I'm assuming that means probably list. Do I have to list all the jobs that I've had on my resume? And no, you don't. You can list, you can either just list the job title, or you can list only the ones that were relevant. I would address the any time you have a career break. And so talking about what you've done during that time period, on your resume, you really want to focus on the skills that are going to contribute to your next role. So really focusing on all of those value-added skills and leaving off the information like old jobs that don't necessarily relate to the job that you want. So yeah.
Well, Anna, thank you so much. Will you let everyone know how they can find you? I know there was QR codes, but just remind everybody one more time.
Yes. So I would love to set up a call with anybody who's interested. My email address is anna@parentspivot.com. So please reach out. And if you reach out by tonight, I will give you an additional one-on-one for the Thrive program. So reach out and set up a call tonight, or reach out and sign up for the Thrive program tonight. And I'd love for you to get that bonus. We have an excellent group of people who are going to be in these next cohorts. I'm so excited. So
I love it. What a great bonus. A one-to-one.
Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us for today's masterclass. As a reminder, we will be sending you an email with the recording and a few details from Anna, so you'll get it all in your inboxes today. So thank you all again and have a great day. We'll see you at the next one.
Yay, wonderful. Thank you.
Bye.